Hi, everyone there around the world. Welcome to a fantastic show. I just want to say Merry Christmas. Go for it, Nigel.
And hey, Plastic, it's great to actually see you again after the enforced absence that I've done. So, first of all, I want to wish you a Merry Christmas and your family and everybody else that watches and listens in to us. Season's greetings goes to them as well, because without you, we wouldn't be anywhere. So, that's absolutely fabulous, fantastic, and top of the season to you, mate. So, and everybody. Merry Christmas. So now, what have you been up to, Plastic?
Just going ahead, as I said, I don't want to get into what's happening here in Australia or what's happening in the UK, but I want to say let's just entertain people as best we can. And as I said, as we approach Christmas Day, I just want to say the Beatles are stronger than ever. You agree? And what Beatle news have you got?
Oh, if I said to you too much, it wouldn't be past the point. I've had a long conversation with David Bedford, or many conversations actually with David. So if you're listening in, David, as well, a Merry Christmas to you. And yes, first of all, did you have a look on the internet? There is now the demo version of Yellow Submarine, which was done in the Rubber Soul sessions, with John Lennon doing the basic first verse vocal. So have a look out there. That is out there to be had and done. And it's quite interesting because it was originally a song that John wrote about his father.
Amazing. I just want to say regarding David Bedford, Vicky and I wish you a Merry Christmas. And I just want to tell you this story because I don't know if you've heard it right. Vicky and I are in Liverpool for Beatle Week, right, this year. And then I find out David Bedford is in one of the rooms, right, signing books. So I go to Vicky and I'm dressed up as Plastic EP, can't miss me. I go, just follow me. David's over there signing books. So what happens is I just let him keep talking to the person there while he's signing, and I just come up next to the person that he's signing to and he's in conversation. And then he's standing about 1 foot away from my face. And I did not say anything. And I just looked at him like this and said nothing. Not one word. He looked at me and he had to absorb it. And he goes, these pesky Australians, they're coming from nowhere. That's what he said.
Yeah, well, what do you
And then we
expect?
took photos. So that was great.
That was great. It was good. I should be going up to next year's Beatle Week, so I will be going. So that's the important thing. Now, what we have also got is on Saturday, the 7th of March next year, in Norwich. I will be doing a special presentation for Inside Number Three, the history and story of Apple Records. And all the proceeds are going to charity, to future projects, because need of help for the great work they do, allied to the radio station. So that's going to be absolutely brilliant. And I'm looking forward to that. Tickets are only £12.50. There is a soft drink as well, and one or two other little pieces. And we're going to have a special experience. And I'm hopeful that David might come down and be one of our guests. But we're just going to try and sort things out there. But it's Saturday, the 7th of March, 2026. And we're all going inside Number Three to have a look at the artists, the memories, and the records that came from that great place. So that's one event, Plastic, not to be missed by anybody. So at every opportunity, because I know that you go all around the world like we do, tell everybody all about it. And, if you're ever in England, anybody, come along, get a ticket and come and see us, because all the proceeds go to a very, very good cause.
I say don't miss it. And if you're close by, you want to come in around from the UK or flying from overseas, go for it. Now, I want to ask you about your second book, Inside Number
Well,
Three. What's it called now? What's the progress where we are now with that?
at the moment, because of family commitments, that everything is sort of slowed down and stopped on that. Excuse me, at the moment. So it's going to be deeper inside Number Three, and there is something coming along, but it's been put back. So at the moment, Plastic, I can't see any more than that, because I can't give any date. But I do hope to be able to pick up the cudgels, as we call it, and start working it probably sometime in January. So I just ask for your diligence and your patience, and you'll be the first to know all about it. That I can promise.
That's great, Nigel, because it's not just me, it's the world that's waiting for it, all right?
Well, you said it. The news on the Beatles, I think it's absolutely incredible. I just don't understand. I mean, I love it, but they just will not lie down, or as we say, go away. The world still is clamoring for Beatles product. And there's so many books coming out, it defies belief. And as you know, we had the Anthology 4 out not so long ago, which was very, very good. And I think it was aimed at the newer fans rather than the older fans, which is great, which is absolutely great indeed. But as you know, they are repackaging and reboxing with the Beatles. So it's either going to be with the Beatles as the next product or probably Rubber Soul. Nobody knows. I know they're working on both. So the times are very busy at Abbey Road. And something is going to be coming out during 2026. As we all know, Plastic, the Beatles catalogue is now something that can be done with every year. There is always something new that can be done with a catalogue such as that. And it is such an important catalogue because so many other groups came from it and used the techniques, used the innovations that they did, that this catalogue is never going to be out of date. And that is something that I do find absolutely staggering. I'm sure you do as well.
Well, I just want to say about marketing, right? There's a lot of products that are coming over the years. For example, right, the green apple with the USB that had the catalogue of the music of the Beatles to that point. I think that was an amazing product that isn't out now. But just think about how forward-thinking that was to do that product.
Yes, it was very much forward-thinking, but the Beatles were always forward-thinking because if you go backwards as we do to go forwards, I mean, every one of their albums was a step forward. But when you got to 65, 66, you look at Rubber Soul, and then you look at Revolver, and Revolver led directly to Sergeant Pepper. Now, Sergeant Pepper is the album for effects, for flanging, for mixing, for seguifying tracks, using all the other things that they did. And I was talking to Steve Hackett. Yes, Genesis Steve Hackett, not too long ago before he went on his American tour. And we both agreed what he said, that he regards Sergeant Pepper as the first progressive rock album. And I think, I did say I agreed with him because it taught us so many things in a very short space of time. That is the one album that spawned the British and the world progressive rock market. So talking of marketing, Sergeant Pepper still cuts the ice.
Yeah, I just want to say that about albums, right? I did a show a while back, right? It could have been during COVID. And what happens is we wanted to know the greatest Beatle album. And I thought to myself, before the show started, I thought, it's got to be Sergeant Pepper or Abbey Road or the White Album. No, it ended up being Rubber Soul, the American version, because of the songs and the mixes that were in that album. So that one came in at number one. I couldn't believe it. Now, you got to understand, music, it's good when you've got a lot of people that like different albums, not just one, because that makes all the albums great. Do you know what I mean? If we just think, oh, there's only one album I've got to associate the Beatles with, well, that's not true. For me personally, my favourite album is the Please Please Me album. And I'll tell you why. If it wasn't for the Please Please Me album and them making their mark on society and culture and being the first and coming out with the music for that generation, there wouldn't have been a second album, and there wouldn't have been a third, there wouldn't have been Sergeant Pepper, and there wouldn't have been Let It Be. So what I'm trying to say is you needed that album that shook the world, and that was the one. To me, it's just like the greatest songs, and I listen to it every day, Please Please Me. I just love it. So much ahead of its time. I mean, the opening song, I saw her standing there. nothing on it on the radio in 63 like that.
Well, I saw her standing there is one of those songs that any band worth their salt, which is a saying in England, worth their money, would love to rewrite and record that song at any stage in their career. It is a cataclysmic opener. But what you've just tickled the ivories on is the fact that there are many, many, many very, very good albums. Everybody makes their greatest 100 or their greatest 50. But apart from a few bands, probably U2, Pink Floyd, Michael Jackson to a point, and Presley, what other artists would have 2, 3, or 4 in the top 10 or the top 20? They wouldn't. This goes to show just how innovative the Beatles were and will always be. I mean, we're looking at a group that passed over 56 years ago, were in their zenith 60 years ago, and we are commemorating those albums because they are still pioneering and forward thinking. And I cannot think of any other artist that has that effect on music, culture, life, and standing at any time in musical history or perhaps the future. You can name ABBA, you could name the Bee Gees, you can name even Bob Dylan to a degree. No artist ever comes close to what the Beatles stand for today, not stood for, I repeat, stand for.
And you know the amazing thing, I've got to say, I do not know of any other group that stopped in 70, right? That so many books are written every week, week in, week out, new books, and it doesn't stop. That is the amazing thing. I'm interviewing authors about new Beatle books. I mean, how much can you write in the Beatles? It just doesn't stop. I mean, isn't that amazing?
Well, that's right. They've spawned an industry in absentia, by meaning that they're not around anymore as a group, but they are, because they have a force. They have a genre that transcribes the present and influences the future. And, you know, thank goodness the Beatles came along. And yes, perhaps being British rather than being American helped them tremendously because of their British accents instead of the American rock and roll drawl and the way that they sang. With the echo on their voice, the Beatles put the echo on through the recording desk so that when you saw them talking to them as we are talking now, they had those quaint English accents, not an echo, not a drawl that signifies a particular movement in music. So my point is, yeah, being British, I think, more than helped them on their way. And they have been a banner for British society ever since. And they are as entrenched now in British society as our lovely Queen was, as Concorde is, as the Mini, as Twiggy. They're entrenched in British society and not just musical society. They are everywhere. And we need to be very thankful for that. Do you not think?
Yeah, I do. But also I want to say something. I've got a chip on my shoulder, right? Because no one talks about the Beatles the way I'll talk about the Beatles, right? What really upsets me is, right, in 64, when they made it, right, instead of like, they're on the top of the world. But the thing is, people were knocking them from then that they wouldn't last. When's the bubble going to burst? And although we're hearing with these negatives, when's it going to stop? And they're on the crest of the wave of going further up. You know, I don't know another band where they went to interviews and all they did is ask them that main question. When's the bubble going to burst? What are you going to do when this is over? I mean, I didn't think that was right.
No, you're quite right. And I remember a BBC, because I've got the interview somewhere, interviewer asked John Lennon, how long do you think you're going to be here? Now, this was in 1963. And Lennon said, with the utmost respect, we're going to be here for about 7 to 10 years. I can't see us dropping off. And even after that, we will still be writing, producing, and penning songs for ourselves and other people. Now, when you look at that statement in 1963, how prophetic it was. Did Lennon know something that nobody else did? He said 7 to 10 years we're going to be at the top. And he was right. And then they split, and they still made records for themselves and gave songs to other people. So Lennon was amazingly prophetic. And, maybe he saw the fact that it couldn't go on forever, but it has. He died in 1980 in tragic circumstances. George died, in 2000, in the 2000s. So we've got both of those no longer here. But they are here. The Beatles are still here as an entity, as a group, as a force. And as we've just said, book writing, book issuing, research. Everybody's looking for new ways to be able to interpret the Beatles' gift of life, enjoyment to everybody. Would you not agree?
Yeah, I totally agree. But as I said, we're lucky that we got people that were associating with the Beatles and saw the rise and were there in Liverpool and had connections with the Beatles, whether it be in the US or UK or Australia or whatever. These people are still here telling their story because they can. You got to understand, when you hear something from someone who was there, it's got a lot of credence than someone that writes a book from research. Don't get me wrong, but when you have inside connection, you know actually what happened. Because with the Beatles, as you know, the stories and the myths, they go on forever. It's like no one can distinguish, well, what's fact, what isn't. The Beatles, to me, when they were raw and they started, that was the real Beatles. But they couldn't be the real Beatles in America. They had to be the clean cut, smiley, whatever, have a joke, keep the English accent and be them. But packaged, do you know what I mean? Like John Lennon knew when he had to wear the suit, his rebellion was he'd undo his top button. And Paul would come along and do it. They had to pay a sacrifice to get the success. That's what it was. But those guys were hardened musicians playing in clubs, playing in rough clubs, playing with sailors that were fighting in Hamburg and whatever. It's like they came from the bottom and went to the top and no one could touch them because they were like, how can I say? The word is invincible. You either got it or you didn't, and they had it. They had it, and no one could compete with them. And that's what it was, because they worked at it, their craft, and they didn't stop. And even in America, they were saying the Beatles, they worked like miners when they were recording in Abbey Road because they put their head down to the grindstone and they knew what they had to do. And that's exactly right. They didn't need to know anything. They just had it and they did it, and no one could do it better than them.
Quite correct. And I act on the positive. I don't say they had it. They have it because they're still here. And you only have to look at their catalogue. I mean, they're searching all the time for new numbers from the archives to see if there's anything they've missed. They never stop searching themselves at the Abbey Road studios, at the vaults. They go through those classic dipped in gold tapes. They go through them to see if they can find new bits of information, new bits of working, new bits of application from the archives. Now, I can't name any other artist that had that effect, has that effect, and still has the effect that the world wants it. And that is a truly staggering fact. And you are a good synopsis of that, because, as you say, with the people that you interview, and I've sat on quite a few, and you do for those people, and they give you that inner resonance, that inner feel that nobody else can. So that, to me, Plastic, is what it's all about.
And also, I want to say, look, I understand we've got the Beatle legacy. All right, now that's intact. But you got to understand, it's 2025, let's say going towards 2026. I've got no problem with Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr doing an album and calling it Paul and Ringo in 2026. That doesn't reflect what they've done in the past. Right. That's what I'm trying to get across to the world. They could do an album if they wanted and put it out. They're here. They can do it. And it's nothing to do with the Beatles. It's just them now in 2026, for example. I'd be very comfortable, and I'd love to listen to something like that.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you 100%. Sadly, these people won't be around much longer. Paul McCartney can always have the gift of writing a pretty tune, and God bless that he can still do it. But you look at this situation now, coming on another angle. You look at the Stones. The Stones were trying to undertake another world tour, and sadly, they've had to call it off because of health issues with Keith Richard. Now, I don't want to sound the alarm bells, but when something like that happens, it just shakes you to the core and thinks, well, these people, they were human after all. They're not demigods. They are going to be here for a period of time and then they're going to leave us, just like every other living person and thing has done. And at the end of the day, we've got to be grateful. We have to be grateful, and we must be grateful for them being here now because they're still with us. And long may that continue.
Well, I just want to say with Ringo, put in a fantastic country album, recently.
Yep.
And the guy doesn't stop, and that's what I like. And you know what? When the Beatles broke up and he put out Photograph, and he put out It Won't Come Easy. I mean, these are great songs. At the end, the Beatles are over and he's going, I'm okay, I can do it. And he did it. And he hasn't stopped. And that's a great thing. And that's why the world loves Ringo. Because you've got to understand, the greatest drummer in the world is Ringo. Hands down. And it's because he was a Beatle and one of the most famous drummers in the world. And that's what it is. And that fame is still with him because the world loves him. Same as Paul. The world loves him. The world embraces them while they're here. So they've got everything to go for and nothing to lose. And there's no benchmarks to compare what they want to do in the future. None at all. It's them now. And if they want to do something for the world now in music, I welcome it. And I'm sure the whole world does too.
Yes, I quite agree. And I think that is a good place to leave this reunion of England and Australia. And all I can say is congratulations on the cricket. We've once again sent over a bunch of amateurs that can't play the game, but we never learn. But apart from that, it's good to talk to you. I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and to you and your family. And I'm sure that we will speak in the not too distant future. And all I say is I wish you the best for 2026. And if we happen to speak after Christmas between the recess, then let that happen. And I've got one or two little bits to show you next time. So we'll do one hopefully in a week or so after Christmas and Boxing Day. Until then, buddy, stay careful, stay clean, and enjoy life.
Do you want to say to everyone out there from Plastic EP and Nigel Pearce, have a very...
Well, you've just said
have a very merry Crimble. Merry Crimble, right? Okay,
yeah,
see you, everyone.